All right, YouTube. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast talking Auburn football. Auburn coming off of the loss to Texas A&M, 20-3. Got a little divide with the Auburn fan base at this point. Bo Nix is usually the focal point of that divide. Sometimes in a more educated way, sometimes in a just straight up derogatory way, like with the Bo sucks and things like that. You have terminology like the Bo fanboys that gets kind of surfaced around. Bo Nix has actually been pretty much a source of division and controversy with the Auburn fan base pretty much since his arrival. Because you look back, you had the Bo Nix Joey Gatewood quarterback battle, just kind of stiff arm Malik Willis. And to make matters worse for this cause, Bo Nix, who has had kind of an up and down career at Auburn, Auburn fans watch from afar Malik Willis pretty much placing himself in a position to where Malik Willis might be a first round draft pick at quarterback. And you look at the situation now, which is up for debate as to the good, the bad, the terrible, and the awful. Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. As always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger War Eagle. Auburn approaches week 11 as a favorite over Mississippi State. But we got to go back, and this has been kind of whenever Auburn loses a football game, it's like all of a sudden Auburn is a dumpster fire, right? The coaches suck. They didn't prepare. It's just always tough when Auburn loses because, for one, Auburn is still chasing that elitism that happened between 2010 and 2013. Auburn was they felt what it felt like to be a team that contends legitimately every year in that 2-year span. Because if we look back, that was an opportunity for Auburn to actually have 2 national championships in a 3-year span that usually, obviously, just doesn't happen. Auburn recruits Bo Nix. This is way off the subject, but Auburn recruits Bo Nix as part of the 2019 recruiting class. Bo Nix led Auburn to the heroic win against Oregon in the Advocare Classic. Okay, we got that. That's fair. But then up and down, we continue to see Bo Nix struggle at times. Bo Nix have great games at times. So what do we assess good Bo versus bad Bo? I will equate this to Bo Nix allows the pressure at times to get overwhelming. He has an issue with calming the situation down, calming the players around him down to where he has this I got this mentality. That's just something he's not good at. And he hasn't been good at since he's gotten there. Albeit, you know what? Bo Nix actually kind of reminds me of LeBron James. LeBron James is one of the best professional basketball players in history when things are going great. And this is not to say that he's never done anything in the clutch, but his clutch ball is not his safety net. He doesn't have that ice cold killer instinct like Michael Jordan or like the late great Kobe Bryant. He doesn't have that. Likewise with Bo doesn't have that ice in your veins type mentality. He doesn't respond well when you have an adverse situation, kind of like what they had against Texas A&M. Texas A&M, I predicted that Auburn would win that game, and if you look at the course of the game, my prediction could have been on point. I think I picked it to, 28 to 24, 4-point game, something like that. Auburn missed some opportunities early to score and, things like that. Shit happens in a game like that. Texas A&M, arguably one of the more experienced football teams, especially on defense in the Southeastern Conference. You have a few guys on that team that have been hanging around since 2016. And God knows if they have even more available playing time because of COVID-19. I would have to do some research on that. But, Bo Nix did, in my opinion, for the first time, yeah, he screwed up with the fumble. He screwed up with putting the ball on the ground twice late in the game, and it really screwed the team up, right? But I will say this. Usually when Bo Nix screws up, it's like a chain of events to where you just gotta take him out of the game. Got to. He's throwing the ball over people's heads. He's throwing the ball into the offensive lineman's feet. This game, I got a different feel. I got a feel from Bo that he was really trying to keep his composure. And he did so way, in my opinion, way more than in other times. Bo Nix only has 3 interceptions this year. The fumbles, absolutely unacceptable. You don't expect that from a junior quarterback that I looked this up today. Somebody in a group that I was in, they said this kid has a net worth of $1.5 million. The easy assumption is from the endorsements. Area of opportunity for Auburn. Definitely the running game. You wouldn't believe it, but Tank Bixby is actually tracking to be one of the first 1,000-yard rusher since Kerryon Johnson. It's been a couple of years for Auburn, especially considering Auburn is one of the schools in the country known for producing great running backs. You got Stephen Davis, you got Bo Jackson, you got Carnell Williams, you have Kenny Irons, you have Ronnie Brown, Trey Mason. The list goes on. I want to say, just without looking at the stat, yeah, he did. He did have a 1,000 yards running the football back in 2010. Yeah, Auburn definitely has produced some good running backs along the way. Kenny Irons, definitely a good one. Bo Jackson, you can't deny it. James Bostic. I mean, these guys are pretty damn good, right? Auburn definitely has to reestablish a reliable running game in order to have a chance to pull this whole 3-loss team in the SEC West making it to the SEC Championship. Now, as we talked about this before, in order for Auburn to make it to the SEC Championship game, here's a couple of things that have to happen from a scenario standpoint. Auburn absolutely has to win out. There's no question about that. Also, Auburn needs a little help. Texas A&M has 2 more conference games, as does Auburn does. Both of them interconference. Texas A&M already has a loss to Arkansas. Texas A&M loses to either LSU or Ole Miss. Hell, lose to both of them. Just get it on out the way, right? Texas A&M loses to LSU or Ole Miss. That puts them out of the picture altogether. Because if Texas A&M were to win those games out, Alabama with the loss to Auburn, assuming Auburn lost another game. Well, actually, if Texas A&M wins out, Auburn beats Alabama, Texas A&M is in because of head-to-head versus Alabama. But Auburn needs Texas A&M to win, and Auburn would have to win out, and Auburn goes to the SEC championship game to take on Georgia. It's a likelihood. Auburn has Mississippi State, which I think is a very winnable game. Auburn has South Carolina, which is an extremely winnable game, and Alabama has proven some levels of shakiness throughout this year. But I want to put in the comment section as we recap the Mississippi State game. Although a little late with this, I had some demands at work. I do apologize to you guys for that. But why we just really beating Bo Nix up, really beating him up. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speak Sports Auburn. As always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.